One of the greatest things about playing in DADGAD or any alternate or open tuning is it brings back that childlike wonder. It brings back that exploration you get when you first pick up an instrument and you don't know what you're playing, but you're just in the moment and just enjoying the sounds that you're creating. And I love that. And that's what playing in open tunings does, because you forget about what you know in standard tuning. You forget all that and you just play. That's what I love about DADGAD, and that's what I love about lots of alternate or open tunings. However, it does get to a point where everything you play kind of sounds the same, and I describe it as the tuning is playing you, not you playing the tuning. So there is a point you get to where you need to start learning the tuning a little bit and understanding and becoming familiar with the notes within that tuning, whatever tuning you're playing in. So today in this video, we're talking about my approach to the very famous modal tuning, DADGAD. So I know there's lots of videos about DADGAD on YouTube already, but I've been getting lots of questions, especially through my mentoring sessions, about my approach to the tuning. So I thought I'd just create this quick video. It probably won't be too long. I'll just focus on kind of the main points and my approach to the tuning. So let's start right at the beginning. If you don't know, DADGAD is the tuning. So it's D, A, D, G, A, D. And there's some great points about this tuning already, is that these three strings, the A, the D, and the G, are already in standard tuning. So if you know standard tuning, then these three strings, they're already in the standard tuning. So they don't have to change. So if you're playing chords or anything, or if you're trying to learn the notes, you know, these are already the same. So that kind of helps a little bit. Plus, another easy thing about learning the notes in DADGAD is that it makes it easy for you because there's 3 Ds, 2 As, and 1 G, you know, so there's only 3 strings to learn, and then the rest are just kind of repeated. So the very first thing I start doing when I begin to learn a new tuning is to learn the notes within the key of that tuning. So of the lowest note within the tuning, which is D in this case. So let's start with D major. Now you'll notice in D major that a lot of the notes are actually all on the same frets within the keys. So if we look at D major, a lot of the notes are all on the 2nd fret, the 4th fret, and the 5th fret. And what I'd start with, just learn up to the 5th fret. You know, you can go further, but it's just easier to just kind of start up to the 5th fret. And then once you've learned that, then start moving up. But you'll notice, because we have these repeated strings, that a lot of it is on, obviously you have all on the open strings and then all on the 2nd fret, the 4th fret, and the 5th fret. So what I do is I'd look at where these notes are and I'd play around and see if you can come up with melodies. You can go up like a scale all the way if that's what you want to do. But I would avoid doing that all the time, because then if you only learn chromatically like that, like a scale up and down, then you end up kind of, all your melodies kind of end up sounding a bit like that. So I would just explore around and just kind of mix those fretted notes with open notes, with the open strings, and just focus on single line melodies, you know. And one of the things I say is try and come up with very simple melodies, you know. And I think of melodies as like starting at home, going away from home, and that's kind of builds the tension, and then coming back home. So it can be like, here's home, which is the root, and that's maybe going away from home, and then we come back to home. You know, something very simple like that. It's not about necessarily learning the names of the notes, but it's learning the relationship of the notes within the key that you're playing in. So what I would do is play the root note as like a drone, play that D as like a drone whilst you're exploring these other notes, and do it really slowly. Don't do it too fast, because it's training your ears to learn the relationships between these notes, and this is just something that might take a bit of time and just explore around. And it's not about necessarily writing a melody. It's just about training your ears and learning where these notes are and how they sound in relation to the key that you're playing in. And then once you feel comfortable with that, then you can move over to D minor. Same thing here, just it's slightly different. Most of the notes you'll find on the 2nd fret, the 3rd fret, and the 5th fret. So we kind of skip that 4th fret there. So there are a few exceptions in D minor. You'll see there, it's not like exact straight lines like the D major, but it's still pretty simple, and do the same thing, explore around, try different notes within this key, and it's the same, just getting your ears trained to listening to these notes and hearing the relationship between these notes and that D, the root note. And again, try to mix in these open strings with these fretted notes. Most of the melodies that I compose in DADGAD are made up of a mixture of fretted notes and open strings. And then if you're feeling up to it, then use a few of these techniques like hammer-ons and pull-offs and slides. Especially hammer-ons and pull-offs are great in this tuning because we have a lot of these open strings that are available to us, so utilize them. One thing that I do a lot is I like to explore other keys in DADGAD. So rather than just playing in D major and D minor, I explore other keys to play in as well. And this really helps in making DADGAD not sound so much like DADGAD, But I still like to choose keys that have a lot of Ds and Gs and As in, because I still like to utilize these open strings. So one key I really like to play in is A minor. And you'll notice that a lot of these other keys actually share the same notes. So they have very similar notes, just they have a different root note. So it's a different feeling you get. They have a completely different feeling, but you're still kind of playing very similar notes. And with A minor, it's kind of nice because you have this A as a root note, the 5th string is an A there. And what I like to do is I like to hold the 2nd fret on that D string, because that's the E and the E is the 5th. So I kind of like to hold that and use that as almost like a bass line or like a drone in itself, Another key that I really like to play in is G major. Playing in G can be a little tricky because the root note is on the 5th fret here on the D string. And especially if I want a lot of this sort of G in the bass, you know, I have to kind of keep my finger here whilst playing other notes in the melody. So it can be quite a stretch playing in this key, but still it's a lovely key to play in. Another great thing about this key is that the bass line can move down, and I love to do this. So it can, when you're playing in like D major or D minor, you know, that's the lowest that the bass can go. Can't go any lower than that. You know, you can only go up. But when you play in keys like G, you know, you can go down, and I like to do this kind of walking bass line. Just sounds so nice to do that, and then combining that with melodies and other open strings, oh, it just sounds beautiful. Now, G minor is also another key I love to play in, very similar to G major, just obviously slight difference, but very similar applies. You know, there's a lot of stretching involved, but again, it's a beautiful key to play in. Now, there are other keys that I do like to play in, but these are definitely the easiest ones to start with. So I'd say just focus on these first before you move on. So here's your action plan to start exploring. Number 1, first learn all the notes in D major and D minor up to the 5th fret in DADGAD. Number 2, pick one of the other keys that I mentioned. Number 3, create a bass line within that key. And number 4, create a melody in that key to play over the bass line. Remember, try to keep it simple to start with. You can always make it more advanced later on. What matters is that you're playing with intention rather than just hoping something nice comes out. And don't feel like you need to abandon those D major and D minor keys as well. Just approach them with more awareness. And ask yourself, what emotion am I trying to convey? And what story am I trying to tell? Because really, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is transfer the feelings up in here, down through our fingertips, onto the strings, and out through the guitar. Oh, and by the way, if you want to grab a free PDF of all those notes in the different keys, then the link is in the description down below. I really hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks so much for watching. And if you're a subscriber, then I will see you in another video very soon. Bye.